What's up everyone, Adam here from Cape Crawlers, and this is the SCX24 Bronco Build Part 7. Welcome back to the channel everybody. Remember this guy? It's been a minute since we looked at the Bronco, but I really got to a place with this build that we'd pretty much done all of the bolt-ons. I was really happy with the performance. It had conquered all of the obstacles on our indoor course here and was performing really well, but I've got the itch to revisit the Bronco build. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to jump back into the SCX24 Bronco build. I don't have any new parts today, but we're going to make do with what we've got and we're going to do some modifications. It's time for the Bronco to take the next step in its evolution. And what that means is some body trimming, some bumper work, and I think we're going to remove the spare tire. So to recap, for those of you that are new to the channel or if you haven't seen any other Bronco builds, what we've done is we've really gone through this whole thing. We've redone the suspension, tires, wheels, linkage, motor. We did a low center of gravity chassis kit. We've done a lot of the just the bolt-on stuff that we can get and do to it. But now we're at the point where to get any more out of it, we've really got to start modifying the chassis and doing some more extensive work to it. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. So I'm thinking we're going to trim the fenders. You know what my style is. I like to do the best that I can to keep it factory looking, but also maximize performance. So we're going to try to do this in a way that gives it a nice, clean factory look, but gives us a lot of clearance so that we can throw some bigger tires on here. I think we're going to put the Scrambler tires on here. As much as I love the Goodyear Wranglers, I think we need bigger tires just for more grip and more clearance. So we're going to try to put the Scramblers on here and see how that works. But to do that, we're definitely going to have to do something with the bumper to make room for these tires, because I'm already running into clearance issues with just these tires on it. So that's what we're going to do. So there is one thing that I've done to this since the last build, and that's the new wheels on here, these RC all-wheel drive, these gorgeous new wheels that they've got. So I think this was the only addition that I've done since the last Bronco build episode. But other than that, it's been largely untouched, and I'm ready to dive back into it. I do have some Treal heavy brass steering knuckles, the new ones that they have out. I think they're 18 grams a piece, but they didn't make it here in time for this episode. So we're just going to make do with what we've got and do the chassis mods that we talked about. So let's dive in here. I think to kick this off, we should do some before runs just to kind of give ourselves a baseline performance setting. We're going to focus primarily on Hell's Gate, which is the most difficult line on the indoor course that the Bronco still struggles with a little bit. So let's focus on that. Also look at some other vertical climbing areas, because that's really what I'm looking to improve with the reduction of the spare tire and some of the other things that we're going to do. So let's head over to the course. We'll do some before runs, and then we'll start trimming and get to work. Right, here we are in Hell's Gate here. This is the most challenging line we got, and by far the most difficult line for the Bronco and any rig that I've got. But the Bronco is really still hit or miss on this line, so let's give it a shot. Oh, jeez, we got it. Whew. All right, here we are on the opposite side. This is the escalator. Let's give this a shot. There we go. We made it. Whew, this got me sweating there. So there's our baseline. It's been a while since I've had the Bronco on our indoor course here, and that was a struggle. Had me sweating there going up Hell's Gate, and then fell off the escalator on the other side. Thankfully, it landed right on its wheels, and I kind of cushioned the blow a little bit. But those were tough. I forgot how challenging those were. So that's even got me even more fired up to get this thing in a better place from a climbing perspective. So let's dive in here. Let's take a look at what we got. I got to dig through my repertoire of tires. I think my son's Gladiator is using the Scramblers currently, so I might have to put something maybe even bigger on it. I got some Trail Kings lying around that I could put on there. We'll see what I got. In any case, I'm going to start switching some tires over and then circle back to y'all, and we'll start looking at the body and the bumper and the spare tire, and we'll do those things on camera together. So I'm going to get to work on the tires and wheels because I've got a million little screws to undo on these wheels and button up the new ones. So I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back and work on the rest of it. Okay, here we are. So I got the Scramblers mounted up. These things look gnarly. Definitely need to trim the fenders. So here we are. We're at the moment of truth here. I've already clipped off the rear tire carrier, which was a bummer. I was really hoping that I could just kind of undo that in a way that I could put it back on if I wanted to, but no luck. So I had to clip that off. Hopefully my son's not too mad at me. I can always buy another part if I need to. Got the interior out. The body's ready to go. Interior actually comes out pretty easily, just like 2 screws, which I was thankful because it's filthy. It needs a good clean. So now we're going to trim the fenders here. So my go-to method is I use these Milwaukee snips, and then I smooth them out with this sandpaper. This is, let me see what grit this is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Medium smoothness. I can't remember. I don't know if it says the grit on here, but it's a medium sandpaper. That's what I usually use. Bronco body's a little different than what I'm used to. So this is going to be a learning experience. We're going to do it together. So let's rip the Band-Aid off and go for it. So what I'm going to try to do is just follow this black line where it butts up against the red. I'm just going to try to just trace that out. Leave the red fender well there and just take off the black. Hopefully turns out like we want it to. Material cuts pretty easy, thankfully. Right, there's our first fender right there. It's a little rough, but this is where I'm going to use sandpaper to smooth that out. Maybe a razor blade to trim it, but hopefully I can make that look presentable here. Gosh, that hurt. Oh, that was brutal. My Bronco, oh my gosh. All right, let's try to clean this up a little bit. All right, that's looking a lot better already. I get sand in there a little bit more. All right, that's a, I would say, semi-finished fender right there. I'm gonna work on it, clean up a little bit. Came out decent. I don't know if I could find some way, maybe a nail polish to color match the bare spots right there. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Maybe I have to go to the mall, see what I can find, or if my wife's got any. I feel better now. I had a very severe moment of panic when I made that first cut and saw the initial outcome, but this looks good. I'm okay with that. Let me just clean these up. I mean, that feels really nice and smooth. Okay, we're on the right track. I'm gonna do the rest, and then I'll come back here when this is all done and we'll take a look at the finished product. Okay, here's the semi-finished product. I did all 4 corners. I think it looks pretty good. Still got some cleanup to do. I'll work on it a little more in the next few days and just kind of tweak it as I see imperfections. I'll just go at it with the sandpaper. But for the most part, I think it came out pretty good. It's got clean lines. It went pretty smooth. One thing I did notice is that if you've got a Dremel, that's probably the best way to do it, because as I was clipping along, some of the body did start to crack up around the fenders. It's really difficult to see because it just kind of, it fits back into place really kind of seamlessly. So the snips weren't ideal for this body. It was a little more fragile than I thought it was, but they did the job and the sandpaper cleaned it up really nice. So I'll keep working on it. I think what I'll do just this evening is touch it up with a permanent marker just so that these edges are black and they don't stand out quite so much as they do as being the white unfinished. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Very nerve-wracking at first, but I'm pretty pumped with how it came out. So I'm gonna throw this back together and then we'll take a look at it fully assembled. Late update here in the video because it's Monday, Labor Day, and I got a surprise delivery that our Treal goodies came in after all. So check out these enormous brass steering knuckles on this thing. These are huge, 18 grams a piece. I hope they fit. They are massive. I also got a package of these wheel nuts. So Treal makes these really nice stainless extended wheel nuts for their hex extensions. And I want to get rid of these black ones because I just don't like the brass look against the red wheels. So I want to get these nice, clean, silver wheel nuts. So I got a package of those. I'm going to convert the C10 over as well. Just nice and clean, and it's good to have extras. So that's just a little bonus. But what I'm really excited about is these big, heavy knuckles. We're going to put this on the front, and I'm thinking this is going to be the cherry on top for this phase of the build. I'm really hoping that this extra weight right up front, down low, is going to make a big difference in our climbing. We're already doing really well with this build, but I think this is just going to be, fingers crossed. I hope they fit, and I hope they perform like I think they will. So I'm going to get these installed, and then we'll do the course runs and see how all of this comes together. Holy smokes, these things. Wow, they are so heavy. Look at the size difference. Man, these things are massive. Whew. So these Enduras that I'm taking off here, I think these are about 9 grams a piece. So these are about twice the weight, and they feel every bit of it. So these are monsters. Look at that, man. Again, with the Treal quality, these things are just gorgeous. Very cool. Sharp looking unit there. Nice. I hope these make a big difference. Okay, quick and painless install. Fit and finish, excellent, just as you would expect from Treal. Here's one side that I've not yet put the wheel on. So you can see the big monstrous things here. I did put these ones on, and you see that big monster knuckle there. The hex extension butted right up against there perfectly. So when you look at this thing, you put it together here real fast, just kind of mock it up. So much brass right there on the end of the axles. And that's crazy, crazy. So this is just a ton of extra weight here. So really amped to get this out and see how it performs. Hopefully this really helps kind of stick the front end down, especially on those uphills. So this is cool. So let's button this thing up and then we'll get it out on the course. Meet Bronco 2.0. Look at this thing, huh? What a transformation. So let's talk about what we did. The most obvious thing is that we trimmed the fenders. I think these came out fantastic. What I did was I took a permanent marker and just went around the inside where it was that white kind of unfinished part of the body that was just sticking out like a sore thumb. Rather than going around looking for nail polish, I just took that permanent marker and just colored that in black. So it doesn't draw your attention to it. It gives it a nice clean look. I think the fenders look fantastic. Really happy with how these things came out. I had a hot racing aluminum bumper lying around that I just put this on here. I had every intention of trimming the front OEM bumper to get this clearance, but rather than cutting it, I just threw this aluminum bumper on because it's really short. I'm not super happy with how it looks or it fits, but it does the job for right now. I'll probably order a Stinger style or something a little different, maybe something a little more chunkier, I think, to fit the character of the build a little more. But this fit our needs in this phase of the build because I got good clearance with the tires. Doesn't interfere. So I'm happy with the bumper, at least for the time being. The rear bumper I did trim, so it was hanging up big time. Then the OEM bumper kind of wraps around here to the corners of the fenders. So what I did was just kind of cut that flush, trimmed the rear, again to try to give it that factory look, but just make sure that I had the room for the tires. And now it fits perfect. They fit right in there. No clearance issues whatsoever. At full articulation, it's using all the suspension, front and back pretty much. So the trimming of the fenders did a perfect job. I'm now able to use all the suspension in the front and the back and able to clear these big RC four-wheel drive scrambler tires. So with the tires, what I did, I initially had soft foams in here, but they were just way too soft. It was acting like there were no foams in there whatsoever, and it was just too wobbly and too squishy, if you can believe that. For me saying that's crazy, right? But it was just outrageous. And you can see even with the medium compound foams that I swapped in there, it's just sagging like there's no foams in there still. And that's because, there's so much weight in the front end of this thing now. Those big brass knuckles are just outrageous. So this thing is just beefy in the front, so much so these tires are just like bowing out. I love how it looks. This thing, it just looks fantastic. In the back, I had to take the spare tire off, which is bittersweet because I like that scale look. I like the rear tire, and what's even more kind of disconcerting is that you have to cut it off. So I did have to cut it, but it is what it is. I think the build looks great. I think it really fits the character of the build. It gives it a tough, compact, capable look to it. So really cool. And these wheels, you know, these RC all-wheel drive wheels, they just fit the build so perfect. The whole thing just looks and works so well together. Those Treal wheel nuts, you know, again, just the little details, you know, I think that just makes a huge difference, not having those big brass ones on there. I think the silver just looks much better with the build. I wish they were black, but maybe I'll paint them. I don't know. But in the meantime, these are much nicer. They're smaller. The finish looks much better, much more at home on the build. So I am stoked with how this thing came out. This was a big transformation. So let's get this on the course and see if all of this aesthetic appeal translates into real performance. All right, here we are, Hell's Gate. You know we got to start here. This has been the bane of our existence, the proving grounds for this whole Bronco build series. And we got to start here, see what's up. Let's see if all this was worth it. Oh man, that was easy. Let's try it again, make sure that wasn't a fluke. I mean, if you remember from the before runs, I mean, even just this section right here, it had a tremendous amount of trouble just getting up over this, and now it just crawls right up over that. Oh my gosh, this thing is an animal right now. Switch sides, check out the escalator. All right, escalator. Holy moly. That was a piece of cake. No problem. Let's do it again. It is performing so well. I got to do these 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it wasn't beginner's luck. And this is just crazy. It sticks like glue. It crawls like no problem. Holy cow. This is a weapon. Holy hell. Man, did this thing make improvements. It's like full Mr. Hyde mode right now. This is not even the same vehicle. This was crazy, the gains that this setup made. I gotta be honest, I was pretty disappointed after the baseline runs. I couldn't even make it up Hell's Gate. I think I made it up once, certainly not consistent. It was very frustrating. I felt like I had taken a bunch of steps backwards with this build. And I also got to say, it was so stressful, cutting the fenders, taking the back tire off, all of this. But when it all came together, man, holy moly. And then getting this thing on the course, I dare say that this is one of the best performing rigs that I have right now. If Hell's Gate and Mini Moab over there is any indication of how this thing is going to perform out in the real world, this thing is going to be a rock star. I think it climbs as good as the C10, I dare say, better than the Deadbolt, especially now that I put the rear steering on the Deadbolt. it would give the Gladiator a run for its money any day in nearly every situation right now, I feel. It seems to have almost C10 capabilities with JLU flex and Gladiator climbing ability. It's kind of how I would sum this up. It's so planted and it grips so well, and it's just an incredible build right now. I'm so thrilled with how this has come out. It has gone quantum leaps ahead of where it was before. So I am mightily impressed with how this thing has come about. Talk about a complete 180 from how I was feeling earlier. So I'm blown away. Super cool. What a great build. It's kind of like reinvigorated my enthusiasm and my love for the Bronco. I just want to drive it all night long. But I got to wrap this up and get this video out to you guys so you guys can check it out too. But man, what a bunch of improvements. So just when I thought that this thing had kind of reached the end of the series, I was almost about ready to wrap up the build series. But then I thought, no, just let's go for it. Let's go big and see what we can do. And I'm so glad we did, because that was a total transformation. I'm impressed. Wicked impressed. So how cool. Man, I don't even know what to say. And that was awesome. I'm so pumped. I want to get it out on the rocks and try it out in a bunch of different places now. But that was great. So a couple things that I just want to highlight is do a quick recap here and just highlight a couple things. That the fender chop was a big one. The trimming of the bumper made a huge difference for clearance, and being able to run these big, sticky, soft scrambler tires is just a killer combo, I think, with the weight in the wheels for these RC all-wheel drive wheels and the big brass knuckles up front. That was the grip that I needed. Now this thing is just like clawing right on to obstacles and just works really well. And here's one thing that I did too that I didn't highlight was I laid the shocks back one more position to level out the stance. So if you remember before, it was kind of raked out. It had like that pretty severe rake towards the back. But now, since I laid those shocks back one more, like into the kind of the arch of the frame rails, gives it a near perfectly level stance. And I couldn't do this before because I couldn't clear the bumper and the fenders. But now that I've got the room, that was one of the first things I did, was reposition those shocks and give it a much more level stance, which helps from an aesthetic standpoint, but now it just seems to work really, really well all around. So super pumped. I've even started thinking about what kind of the next iteration will be, so we're not done yet. We got at least one more video where we're going to do some pretty substantial upgrades. So it's going to be fun. Bronco Build episode 8 will also be pretty impressive, but it's going to be hard to top lucky number 7 here. This was a killer episode, I think. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of the Bronco? Heck of a transformation, right? Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear from you guys. As always, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and we'll catch you in the next video.